Welcome back. This is video 2 of the 3-part series in which we're covering the marketing journey, the sales process, and turning it into our new revenue process. And today we're going to talk about how you don't have a sales problem, you actually have a systems problem. And how we're going to cover this is we're going to talk about some of the things that come up when your systems are struggling or you've grown too fast and haven't paid enough attention to them. Again, we're going to talk about the customer journey. This is going to be your system to consistent sales growth and your basis for optimization. We're going to walk through some of the different decision-making stages along this journey. We're going to map the customer journey. What we're also going to talk about is how to meet the customer where they're at by providing content tailored to them at that individual stage. And then we're going to build the underlying revenue system that includes workflows, touch points, your business stages, and give you a couple examples. So this one's going to be a little more in-depth and technical. And again, if you don't have the workbooks or worksheets, please get them, email me, or look at the contact information on the first page. Send me an email. You should have them there. So one of the big things here is that you're not stuck because of sales or a lack thereof. It's because of your systems. Most of the time, the businesses that are doing a few million that have grown have reached this plateau. And the thing that keeps coming up when we work with clients is that most owners think if we just get more leads, we'll grow. The problem is if you continue to get more leads in a messy, broken system, it's just like throwing money into a pit. It'll leak out. You don't know where it's going to go. So if your pipeline is full, but you have no confidence, if your prospects are slipping through the cracks or it's inconsistent in following up, or when you push things or add things, it breaks, this is a sign that your systems are struggling to keep up with where you want to go. We got to fix those. And simply put, there's 3 stages to what we're going to cover today: the customer journey, the business stages that you have within your business to move them along the customer journey, and then all the different touch points and workflows that are in those stages that help move them. So this is how you interact and communicate with everybody. First things first, this is the customer journey. So this is how they go through their process of diagnosing that they have a problem, figuring out what to do about the problem, and then choosing who to fix the problem with. This is the underpinning for everything we're going to talk about because, again, we have to move at the speed of relationships with our customers, and knowing where they're at on this journey is going to allow us to tailor our messaging and content to them. An example of this could be like, okay, I have a problem. My foot hurts. You are aware that you have a problem. It's the first step in recognizing it. Number 2, what can I do about this? Now that I've identified that it's arch pain, it's not just my toe or something, it's arch pain. My options are, do I just stretch it daily? Do I go get surgery on it? Is it that serious? Do I get custom orthotics in the shoes, some inserts? And after you evaluate your options, maybe look at a couple different providers, you're like, okay, I've ruled out surgery and stretching. We're going to go get these custom orthotics. What are the next 1 to 3 people I need to talk to make this decision? So the idea here is that as we move through this, the customer is making little decisions and gathering information and moving from a problem aware state to a provider aware state. And that's where when we meet them at the provider aware state down the road, that's the sales process. That's when we begin to sell to them. And we'll go through some more detail there and how we do that by making sure that we map the content to those stages. So each stage of this has different content you should be using, especially if you've got your whole journey mapped out. We want to prioritize these content types and use some of the things below that I'll talk about. So when you're in the awareness phase, we need to make sure that we understand them by showcasing that we get their problem. Others have experienced it too. We've helped them. And you want to lead with high empathy. So the reason being is empathy says, hey, I get you. And again, by showing that we know the problem, we get them, they're going to start to listen to us. We're going to build that know, like, and trust process. As we get into consideration and they're trying to figure out what to do about this, they're going to want more information. They're going to want more solution-oriented content. So we want to make a blend of, we get it, you're probably going through this decision-making process. Here's some resources for you to be more well-informed and educated so you could then move into making your decision. And when we get to the decision stage, this is where we do a lot of the selling. This is where we bring in authority. Now, authority could come into a couple different avenues: your expertise, your technical experience in the matter, and even social proof showing that you've solved this problem for others. This is what we want to present here to get them across the line and make a buying decision. Now, to do this, this is one of the worksheets you have here. It is the customer journey, and we filled in some of the definitions based on what I just described. What's also important is going through this is you'll see customer feeling, customer action, what or where are they researching? And what decisions do they need to move to the next step? I highly recommend that you go in here, think of your customer, and start filling out what they need to do in each of these steps so that then we could go a little deeper. So this is an ideal customer profile. This is for us to speak their language. It's going to go in more depth. There's about 30 questions on the full worksheet. It's going to talk about demographics, business and personal characteristics, behavioral traits, what value they will get out of this. And so when we really know our customer and we have our customer journey mapped out and knowing how they make the decision, we can start crafting our lead generation and marketing strategy. So first things first, you could see here that the customer journey should align with your business stages. Now, this is important because as the customer goes through their journey, we're also going to be moving them through our journey internally of all the different people, software, touch points, and offers we're going to make to get them to eventually become a customer. So that's what we call the sales process or the business stages. We need to map those out too. What we do internally to then sync up to the customer journey so that we can then create the content that matches them is that we need to define all of our business stages. This can be a little daunting. A lot of times when we do this with clients and even people we just want to help out with, the fact is you don't realize how many different things have to happen to make a sale happen. There's dozens, if not sometimes 100 different things that have to interact for you to move them from visitor to sold. And so in doing this, we want to map out each of these stages within your business. Feel free to modify these to suit your business so that we know what our definitions are. What is the interaction with the customer? Could be email, could be phone. We'll talk a little bit more about that. How do we track this? Because remember, we're building this to be a scientific approach. We want to be able to measure it to then improve it. And down the list. So who's going to be leading this for accountability? What is the report or reporting going to be so that we can monitor it and eventually dashboard it? In terms of this stage, what does the customer have to do to move to the next level? And is there anything we're doing already here that we should stop doing, keep doing, or start doing? And again, any miscellaneous notes about what's going on, I recommend you put in some of your software that you're using to communicate this and just in that row map out all the different touch points as well as software because as we talked about in the first video, those data and those silos are going to be complicated and it increases with complexity and you'll see it all here. The next thing here is like the general definition of each of these stages so you know how to modify these to fit your business. I'm not going to read off the screen, but we want to make sure we know the first touch point, how we convert them into a contact, which means we have an email or phone number, a lead, making sure that they are interested, an opportunity, more along qualification, they're ready to buy in a specified time period, and we might be a good fit, and eventually customer and all that. So for the initial approach, we just want to fill out the previous sheet and understand the landscape before we jump into building. All right, so the next thing here is we talked about the customer journey. That's what they're doing. The business stages, these are our individual stages and milestones that go into it. Now let's talk about what goes into the business stages to move them across each stage to the customer journey and move them all here. If any of this is confusing, I apologize, but it's really important that we go deep into the micro details so we could build this. And then eventually in the next video, we'll talk about how do we lead this whole function, report on it, monitor it, and improve it. So back to the sales process definitions. So what we define a workflow as, it's a series of coordinated messages and touch points used to move the customer to the next step. A touch point is individual actions within a workflow that move move a prospect from one stage to the next. Example touch points are any communication really. Email, phone, in-person, video, voicemail, additional resources sent. You could have retargeting ads, you could have direct mailers, handwritten notes, a lot of these things. And this is where it's going to come up to your creativity and how you run your sales process to start filling these out. And what I would recommend is that you map the entire process from a touch point perspective. So we're drilling down to the micro here so that once we have all of this, we could then reverse engineer, put it back in the business stages and make our content for the customer journey and then report on it all and have ourselves a revenue process. So an example of this would look like a contact to lead workflow. So day one, we get a contact, we call them, we respond within 5 minutes with a voicemail, And then over the course of 21 days, we're going to have a workflow that has all these different touch points with scripting, with messaging, with reminders, with follow-ups to get them to just become a lead. And by the end of it, we're going to have a if then or yes no. If they don't become a lead after this period of time, we're going to move them into something else. If they do become a lead, we're going to move them to the next stage of the sales process. And so it's important to go through all this and make sure you are looking into the details of what you're saying across your whole thing, because you may realize day 3, email number 2 is your highest converter. What's happening there? Or maybe it's day 15 when you finally get them on the phone. This is important because once we start reporting on this, we'll realize, okay, what is our sales cycle? How long does it take? How many actual touch points does it take from here? And 3, what is working and what isn't? And how can we fix this bottleneck? And so there's a lot. We went a little fast here to cover it all. You're going to have the workbooks. You're going to have this video to refer to. You're going to build this out. And so this first step starts with understanding the customer journey by understanding the ideal client profile. Fill those out, map it, and then within that, you're going to move on to the business stages. What are all the business stages in your company? From there, we want to do a touch point map, a whole process map of what it takes to go from cold to sold. And I'd recommend you break that down for your first stage to second, second to third, third to fourth, fourth to fifth, so on and so forth. And then revisit that with, okay, this is what we're doing. How can we do it better? Can we create some workflows, some automations, scripting? Do we need to review our messaging? Is this the right cadence? Do we need more? Do we need less? Because as we get this and we record it, we can now become scientists and experiment with these things to create a repeatable process that ultimately builds your entire business. So that's the end of video number 2. Again, you have the right tools for the job for this. We're going to give you the revenue review checklist from the first video. That's how you're going to do the initial discovery and audit to see where you're at, where the gaps might be. The revenue review workbook is how we're going to build all this stuff out, the customer journey, business stages, touch points, workflows, as well as your ideal client profile. So if you have any questions, again, find me at the email in the first slide. Find me in the email you probably got this in, or if it's on YouTube, leave a comment. After that, we'll see on video number 3 and how we lead all this and execute on it to grow our leads, our sales, our profit with what we already have instead of adding more to it.